Many critics say that Donald Trump seems to act like the head of a crime family. Could he be charged like one, though? Is this more than rhetoric? A former federal prosecutor, Barbara McQuade, makes this case in a new column, writing, recent developments in the New York federal prosecution investigation suggest they could be building the case against the president and his family under the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, known colloquially as RICO, a statute you've probably heard of because it is used against organized crime syndicates. Getting tonight's last word is that former U.S. Attorney, Barbara McQuade. Please explain.
Good evening, Ari. Yeah, so I've been asked before whether RICO is a possible criminal charge that Robert Mueller might be looking at. And, I've really thought not, that it doesn't really fit election interference. But when you look at what the Southern District of New York is looking at, who are the experts in RICO taking down mob families, it does make a little bit of sense. RICO essentially was a statute passed in 1970 to go after the mob because mob bosses would insulate themselves from criminal liability by having underlings commit crimes. What RICO says is that it's a crime for someone to participate in the affairs of an organization, either directly or indirectly, through a pattern of racketeering activity. So those predicate crimes could be wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, some of the very same kind of crimes that we're seeing the Southern District of New York look at. And so could they be building a RICO case? I think there's a possibility that they are.
Did you ever see the Dark Knight Rises Batman movie?
Yes.
So you remember that for the legal nerds, that's the breakthrough scene where they say, Harvey Dent says, well, wait, if they were pooling their money, we can get all of them on RICO. To use that Dark Knight analogy here, though, couldn't the defense of the Trump folks, particularly the family members, be like, yeah, I mean, that's my dad, but I'm not in the inaugural committee, and yes, I worked at Trump Org, but it's not my money explicitly, specifically. What is the response to that defense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just being part of the association does not mean that you're guilty of a crime. There has to be, under a RICO conspiracy, an agreement that the group will commit crimes, even if you individually are not part of those criminal activities. If you agree that part of the group will commit at least 2 of the predicate crimes that are on the RICO list, then that could be sufficient for a RICO conspiracy. So you're right, not just mere association, but an association for the purpose of committing crimes.
And just to understand briefly, your theory would be that the feds might look at this and deal with it potentially even after Trump leaves office.
Yeah, for sure. We'd really be looking at the Trump organization as opposed to President Trump as the president. And so I think so. And also the statute of limitations lasts for 5 years from the date of the last racketeering act. And so long as there's an act that was committed after January of 2016, it could be charged in January of 2021 when President Trump is out of office.
Fascinating. And I guess I have to ask you, a lot of people think that the mafia was able to get tipped off about the raid on their bank because of leaks in Harvey Dent's office. That's how the Joker got in there with the marked bills, able to move their money. Do you have a view on that? Do we know? Is Harvey Dent's office leaky?
I don't know. You never know what kind of evidence prosecutors are looking at. It's just a possible theory.
He's a fictional character, so it's a hard question to answer. But it is late on a Friday.
It is, and I'll have to leave that one for you, Ari.
You know what? I'll keep working on it. A lot of times these thoughts I have, people say, you know what, why don't you just keep that in your own mind. Barbara McQuade, a very interesting theory and a great sport. You get tonight's last word.
Thanks, Ari. Have a good night.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere, though. This is the end of The Last Word. You can always find me at 6 p.m. Eastern at The Beat with Ari Melber on MSNBC. But right now,